Yep.
So now that we've covered Illinois law, what I want to turn to is really it's going to be more advice, not specific to Illinois, but really to dads everywhere. So you heard in the intro, I introduced Joe as an attorney and an author. So he is the author of the book, and I actually have my copy here. Is Winning Your Divorce, the top 10 mistakes men make and how to avoid them. It's a great book. It's a great resource, no matter really where you're at in the process of divorce, or if you're separating from a significant other you co-parent with and you aren't married. Because I think Joe and I were talking before we went live, we see the same handful of issues over and over again in every single man's case. So I'm going to pick off a couple of chapters that I received the most questions on, so we can talk about those. I'm also going to put a link to Joe's book on Amazon in the bio. Not only is it to his book, which is a great resource, but it's a link to Amazon Smile that is linked to donate a portion of the proceeds to the Father's Rights Movement. So click through that link, go through Amazon's Smile, support Joe, educate yourself, and also support the Father's Rights Movement. So the first one here, it's chapter 1 or it's the first chapter of in the book is moving out of the marital residence. So we see an extremely common thing is women, the woman, the wife, the girlfriend kicks the father out of the house, tells him you gotta leave. So what should a father do in those instances when the wife or girlfriend is like, you gotta leave, you're not welcome here anymore?
Well, there's a reason I put it first in the book. It's probably the most common mistake I see. There is this expectation, this concept that's kind of reached cultural consciousness that if somebody files for divorce, then the parties have to split up. And that's quite frankly not true. The court doesn't expect you to split up. It's more of a social construct. I always tell guys, unless there's been some sort of domestic violence or something like that, absolutely do not leave that house. It's your house too. You have just as much right to be there as she does. And, if you do leave the house, I can guarantee you two things. The divorce is going to last much longer, and it's going to be much more expensive. It's so important that even if you have to set up your own bedroom in the basement, I advise you not to leave the house.
Okay, and then so if possible, it's you don't leave the house. You have every right to be there that they do, whether it's you own the home with them, whether you're renting, whatever it may be. I've seen situations where the wife is the only one on the title. California, we're what's called a community property state. The wife's the only one on the title, but the parties bought the house when they were married. So all money that has went towards that mortgage is considered community property. So all that equity built up in the house is property of both parties. So correct. Stay in the house. It's going to show if you leave, the judge could construe that as I don't see myself as an important parenting figure if there are children involved, and it's going to kind of string out your finances. So what happens if there is that domestic violence piece, whether it's her alleging or her saying, I'm going to tell people you're beating me, or I think more common than we would want to admit, the man is the victim of domestic violence.
Yeah, domestic violence is definitely not a joke, and something that I think the divorce community has ignored for a little bit too long. Obviously, if you're a man and you're worried about your soon-to-be ex manufacturing some sort of allegation against you, that's something you should pay close attention to. If you have her saying that to you in an email or a text, well, then you've got some ammunition, but very often it's said verbally, and then it's hard to prove. One of the harder things to deal with is when the man is the victim, because there's still this I guess, gender-based concept about how, guys don't, accuse women of physically hurting them. A guy can take it. A guy shouldn't complain or go running to the authorities every time his wife smacks him. But, I have a number of clients who were the victims of an aggressive and out of control spouse. And, it took a while, but once you convince them to go in and get a restraining order or get an order of protection, she's got to leave the house. And then, then you're safe, the kids are safe, and very often that's the step that really brings home for the spouse that this is serious and this is happening and they better get their act together.
Yeah, and one thing I see around that is men's lack of willingness to do that. It seems as if women are very proactive in if there's any sort of issue. We talked last week with Tennessee attorney Connie Reguli, and there's like the mean text domestic violence restraining orders, and like basically it's just words, but
right.
It's the safest thing for the judge to do that is to grant it. The
judge is going to err on the side of caution. So
yeah, that's why I said there's nothing to lose for a judge to grant it in their book, and they have everything to lose if they don't grant it. Their name ends up in the paper if something does happen. So one thing I see, and I have to talk guys through, is when there are documented domestic incidents where the wife or the girlfriend is the aggressor, they're scared to move forward with that out of perception. Maybe it's culturally, or just they don't want to harm their soon-to-be ex-wife or soon-to-be ex-girlfriend. So what advice would you give to guys who are the victim of domestic violence but are afraid of the harm that they will do if they report it?
Well, that's a phenomenon that still puzzles me after 16 years of doing this. Every once in a while you'll get a client and they will push back on all of your advice and all of the strategy that you discuss with them because, even though they're getting divorced, they don't really want to hurt the other side. And I have to sit them down and I say, look, I'm your advocate. I'm your attorney. If you want me to fight opposing counsel, I'll fight opposing counsel. If you want me to fight your spouse, I will. If you want me to fight with the judge, I will. But if I have to fight you too, then this battle's already lost. There are certain consequences of getting a divorce, and they have nothing to do with hurting or intentionally harming the other side. They're just consequences as a result of the law. Your life is going to be different. It's not going to be the same. And there are certain things that the court has to do. So, filing things in court, asking the judge to do certain things, that's not hurting the other side. You're just going through the steps that are necessary to bring about the result, which in this case is the divorce.
Yeah, so true. So I'm going to pull up a question here because it ties in really well right now. So Mike asks, what if it's already believed that you're the aggressor? So domestic violence, a lot of times he said, she said, a lot of times it goes in favor of the woman. What does a man do if there's already the presumption that they are the aggressor in this relationship?
Well, there's two things you can do. Number one, everybody wants to be secure in their house. Everybody wants to feel safe. So go down to Costco or go down to Sam's Club and buy security cameras and put them all over the inside of the house. That way, if she attempts to manufacture some sort of scenario against you, you're going to have video evidence. The second thing you can do is start building your case. And what I mean by that is if she says things to you, if other people tell you that she said things, start keeping a log, start documenting everything you see and everything you hear. If you think that she's trying to paint you or create this perception of you as a bully or an instigator or the aggressor in this scenario, because they will slip up. They're either going to say that to somebody who absolutely doesn't believe it, or they're going to send it to somebody on Slack or WeChat or text or Facebook Messenger. That they're going to say it to somebody. And if you can get a hold of that documentation, you can often undercut their whole plan.
Yeah, and I thought you made a really good point about documentation. One thing I tell clients is from the moment that 70% of relationships, the woman is the one who ends. That's the statistics we have right now. From the moment she says she wants it over or you think it's over, you need to go out and buy a journal and you need to just start documenting everything, because they're going to take texts out of context. They're going to do all these things, and it's going to carry a lot of weight if you have this organized journal that shows exactly what you've been doing. That's going to carry more weight than them cutting and pasting text messages or her trying to recall what happened.
Absolutely.